I want to switch gears and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of wrestling. I know you've been
Yeah.
involved with a lot of charity work and have done
Yes.
stuff outside of wrestling. What kinds of things have you done to help out in your community over the
Well,
years?
with the wrestling, that's actually been the backbone of how I got into a lot of things. I was the go getter kind of thing, and I was, back at that time when I first moved to the United States. I was living in Canada at the time. I moved and got married to my wife down here. She passed away a couple years ago from
I'm so
cancer.
sorry.
But she and I struggled like all dead out at that time, like the wrestling business. We struggled like crazy, and one of the things that really was a benefit to us were radio station promos, and that and I don't they don't do a lot of those anymore because of COVID and so on. But at that time, the radio stations would go to certain businesses that were heavy advertisers, and they'd set up shop and they'd give away some prizes and so on and so forth. And that's where we ended up getting movie tickets from to be able to go and see movies, in advance and get some DVDs and so on and so forth. And we met up with a person there who was a Booster Club board member of the Portland Winterhawks WHL hockey team, and that's Junior A hockey. It's just those are the teams that are drafted to the NHL, and they farm them
Hmm.
out to the ECHL and AHL and so on. So these are 16 to 20-year-old kids, okay? And she said, I can get you a couple of tickets, but promise me that you will join the Booster Club when you go. Okay, fine. So we did, and but what I liked about it was that it reminded me a lot of the wrestling business, the camaraderie, the family atmosphere, the at that time the helping each other out kind of thing was really important to us. So we signed up for the Booster Club, and they were looking for people to be on the board, and my wife and I and a friend of ours signed up, and surprisingly enough, we were elected to the board. I don't know how that happened, but we did. And so I was on the board for a couple of years, as was my wife, and she stayed on the board for a little bit. And then that year, I was asked by because the bylaws in the Winterhawks Booster Club were that you need to be on a higher echelon of the board to aspire to higher positions within the board. So you'd step up kind of thing. So at that time, one person was asked if he would step away from being sergeant at arms so that I could slide into there, so I could take an executive board position and then move up. So I was sergeant at arms for a year, and then that year, the president came to me and said, I've been on the board for 6 years, or pardon me, 23 years. I've been the president for six. Um, I think we are needing new blood, and so, because of my go-gettedness and my attitude and so on and so forth, I ended up becoming the president of the Booster Club, and I was there from 2008 to 2023. Um, Traveled all over Canada and the United, we Washington State for games. Took them took the board members to a lot of different places that we hadn't been for decades, and established actually a fan club in Prince George, BC, to become their booster club. And we took our booster club to a lot of areas in Manitoba and Saskatchewan and Alberta so people could see who we were. And a lot of them were just mesmerized as to how we had been able to uh, accommodate. I mean, at that time, I think we were about 400 members. And I think our highest, I think, was just under six. Um, but it was just like our, our, our believability in our product and so on and so forth was such that people could get behind it and support it. And so we could give some money to local charities. So one of our big things that we would do yearly, back in 2012, we started it, was called Shop with a Hawk. And then I know a lot of them, we see a lot of these days with Shop with a Cop kind of thing, where they take underprivileged kids out shopping for school supplies. Well, our case, obviously, because we're a fall and winter sport, that doesn't really work. So we end up doing for Christmas presents for kids and so on and so forth. So we would take underprivileged kids Christmas shopping and we pair them up with a Winterhawks player. So a lot of these players were from affluent backgrounds and so on and so forth. So seeing people that didn't have the wherewithal, didn't have all the greatness and that sort of thing, to be able to partner up with them and see how they existed was kind of a mind numbing for them. So it worked on both ways. Got to see, what they could become. These kids could see, the stars in the making, and these players could see what these kids came from. So, we did that. I was on that for many years, and the program has continued on ever since. We'd help out 23 or so every year. So I think altogether, between all the different groups that we did, between donating money to the Scholastic Fund, Shop of the Hawk, other charities that we did during the course of the year, I think we raised over $250,000 in the last 10 years or so.
That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
You were able to do that. Was
Yeah.
there a favorite function or favorite memory that you have from your time there that just is
Well, definitely Shop of the Hawk
heartwarming?
was our favorite, just because of the fact that we got to see the players get to be kids again. I mean, you see these players, 16 to 20-year-olds that are having to be serious when they're on the ice, that sort of thing, practice and thing, in the toy aisle with the kids playing games and Legos and playing ball and so on and so forth. And it was great to see them have kids again. So one of the things that we do at Christmas was we would do player gift bags. We'd have people donate uh, unwrapped items, usually chocolate bars or knickknacks or whatever else, into bags, and we give them to the players as a show of thank you for them. And so that was a big thing for them, because a lot of these got to be kids. They got to go home and they'd open up their bag and they see, there'd be granola bars in there, they'd have treats in there, they'd have silliness. I think somebody bought Hot Wheels cars one time. I mean, it's just, these are things for kids to do.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we also did that was the envy of a lot of the league. I mean, they would do similar, but I think ours were. I don't say the best just because we were better than everybody else, but just because we created this one was a yearbook. A lot of the teams, we would do scrapbooks. They pick a player and they do a scrapbook on the player. The problem with that was that if you were a popular player, you could get a scrapbook, maybe two or three. And if you weren't a popular player, then you get like one or a small one or something like that. This was a yearbook. So it had all the players, all the accomplishments, all the events, all the things. And we run it from preseason up until the end of the season. And so each of these players would get like a 2-inch binder thick, full of all these newspaper clippings. And we made copies of them, of course. But we would probably do about 300 pages a year of this book. And we'd have people that would assign different groups. They would do articles one time, 3 stars one time, road games one time, etc. And we compile all these into one thing. So I'll never forget one time there was a guy who played for Portland, was traded up to Vancouver. Actually, I think he ended up in the NHL at one time. But I remember somebody had left behind a couple scrapbooks and had never given to him. And it turned out he was coming down for one last game from Vancouver to Portland. So we were able to meet up with him and get him his books. So he's on the bus that night, and people and all these players were looking, what have you got there? What have you got there? And this guy was like, I've got these scrapbooks from my old team and this running in, and they were just shocked. I mean, all these memories, all these pictures, all these different things that could flood through the floodgates again of what you'd done in your last year that you were there, because he was aging out at that time. This was his last year in the league. So he had something to look back on. It was really a phenomenal thing to see.